Now, having calculated the expectation perception gap, now we'll look into how we can figure out whether the service which is being perceived by the customers, what is the most influencing factor, or what among these all parameters, which is the most influencing factor which is deciding the kind of service which, or the customer service index, which is the ultimate aim of this case study where we started with the exercise with. So if you see, we are again listed down all the responses of the respondents. So you see that there are around 200 respondents, where we are now taking only the variables with respect to the perceived or the service which is being currently perceived by the customer, and ignoring the expected part, because we already done with the expectation perception gap. Now we want to see that with the service which is being perceived by the customer, which is the most influencing parameter among all these variables. So if you see, we have taken all the perceived parameters like convenience, staff related, recognition, branch manageability, tangibles, reliability, product, credit card, debit card, loyalty of the banks or the loyalty programs which they carry out, the website, that is the internet banking, mobile banking. And then we are calculating a metric, a derived metric, say customer service index, that is CSI, that is nothing but CSI. Now CSI is being calculated using the average, using average of all the parameters which we have taken into consideration. So if you see all the variables from E2 to N2, the average of all those variables is my customer service index for that particular respondents. Similarly, we are calculating the customer service index for all the respondents which they have. And then the reason why we are trying to do is, we are trying to build a regression model, where in the regression model, as you must be aware that in a regression model, we are trying to model the dependent variable with respect to independent variable, because we know that, because we want to develop a relationship where we want to see that the dependent variable is dependent on all the other variables or the parameters which we have considered, and among all those parameters, which is the most influencing variable or the significant variable which is resulting in my, or which is impacting my dependent variable. So in our case, the dependent variable would be the customer service index, and all my independent variables would be from E2 to N, from E column to N column. So what I'm trying to interpret from this model is, with respect to all the parameters from E to N, which is the most influencing parameter which is impacting my customer service index. Remember, at the end of the day, what matters to the banks is the customer service index, because it's a very important metric with respect to bank, because it helps in understanding what is the level of customer service which the bank is delivering. This is also an differentiating factor for most of the bank, because for some of the bank you will see that the customer service index is very high, for some of the banks it is very low. So we are trying to see, if a bank gets to know, like, among all these parameters, which is the most influencing parameter. If I were a bank, I would obviously would like to concentrate on the variable which is, or the parameter which is most influencing my customer service. So for that reason, we develop a regression model where we take the dependent variable y as customer service index, and all the independent variables from E to N. So using that, we have developed a regression model. So if we could run here as well, where we are trying to see regression model. So if you go to data analysis tab, then you go to regression. Okay, then it would ask you for the input y range. So we know that the input y range in our case is nothing but the customer service index, and so the input y range is nothing but your dependent variable. So in our case, it's y, I mean it's the customer service index, the last column. And then it would ask you for the customer or the input x range, which is nothing but my set of parameters from E column to N column, and I would drag all the set of values which I currently have. It would ask me whether do we have labels in the first row or not. So we do have labels, so we'll take this and then we'll click OK. Okay, so there is problem where we see that it contains a non-numeric data. Okay, so this is probably because of this reason, where we have misplaced a value, or there has been some problem while copying this data. However, this is the way we would carry out the regression. And if you see at the regression solution, what we find out is, so this is the regression output which you would receive once you develop the model or once you run the exercise which we just saw by using the data analysis tab at the top. So you see that the model accuracy is around 72%, which is a good accuracy. And if you see that the overall model is significant since it is less than 0.05, so this is a threshold level index for 95%, where if the significance level is less than 0.05, then the model is significant. So we see that the overall model is significant. We could interpret this from the ANOVA table which we get. The next set of table which is of most influencing, or which is the most important table from this model perspective, is the coefficient table, where we see that all the independent variables are listed here and the coefficients of all these variables are listed here. For us, the next next important thing which the analyst or the model output should look at is the significance variable of these variables, because the significance variable, remember we started this exercise in order to come at a conclusion that among all these variables, which two or three variables I should most target to improve my customer service index. So the threshold significance level, as we told discussed earlier, that it is 95%, and for that the significance level should be less than 0.05. So if you see for only for convenience and staff related, the significance level is less than 0.05. For all, it is greater than 0.05. So the interpretation of this would be the most significant dimensions or parameters that contribute to overall experience or my customer service index are nothing but the convenience and staff related. These are the most two influencing two variables which are influencing my overall experience of the customer. So this is how if I were a bank, I would mostly concentrate. If I had to improve the customer service index or my overall experience of the customer, I would first look into this both aspect, considering that they are the most significant dimension that are contributing to overall experience. That is, two variables which are found is the convenience and staff related.